someone was standing upstream, poured something into the stream, unless you catch that just as it's going by, you have no idea that it was in there. So you could have sampled before that slug of contamination went by or after it passed through, and you would not be able to capture it in the moving water. So what we have is we have macroinvertebrates that live in this stream all through the winter, all during the whole year. So they are our canary in the coal mine, so to speak. If someone discharges something into the stream or some other event causes something that disrupts water quality, you will see it, because the more pollution-sensitive organisms will not be in the stream any longer. They'll die as a result of an event that went through there. So it gives you a kind of an annual look at how the water quality's been over, say, the previous 12 months. If you sample every April, you're sampling and looking at the macroinvertebrates, most of which have been in there through the whole winter. There are, depending on the species, there's some of them that go through 3 or 4 life cycles during the course of a summer. But everybody, when fall comes, has to have eggs in there so that they're down in the stream and they can live through the winter, so they hatch out in the spring and reproduce and start their cycle again. So when we collect the macroinvertebrates, we'll see mayflies in here.
Yeah, there's
probably a few mayflies in here. In the more impaired urban streams, you have just the most pollution tolerant of the macroinvertebrates, which will be the chironomids, the midgefly larvae. They're a little tiny worm. We have some pictures about ranging in size from like a 1/8 of an inch up to 1/4 and sometimes 1/2 an inch in size. And they have, you know, their own little special mechanisms to hold on to and stay in the place that they live in the stream and eat the food that they live in the stream. I'll go into a little bit of depth here. There are different feeding guilds in the streams. There are shredders. Most of those around here are big fat fluidae worms, and they'll get into a pack of leaves and they'll shred. We call them shredders because they're chewing up leaves. Because the water's flying by, they're only ingesting some of it and the rest of it's heading downstream. Then you have the collector-gatherers who have silk-producing glands in their mouth parts or in their neck, and they weave a little web that they lay on the surface of the rock. The water passes through, it catches this little bit of shredded detritus in there, fine particulate organic matter, and then they eat the little net up and then they weave another one. So that's how they complete their life cycle. Then there's other ones like the odonates, the dragonflies. They're on the hunt. They're out there eating these other macroinvertebrates. So you have this whole layer of food guilds inside of the stream. And why sediment is bad is there are 2 reasons. If I'm one of these collector-gatherer ones and I put my web out there and it keeps clogging with sediment, I'm eating sediment and getting very little nutrition. So they tend to die from starvation. All of them have gills, so they're breathing from the water, and if you have a lot of sediment in the water, there's less oxygen in the water. So there are lots of different things that can affect the life histories of these organisms in the streams, so that's why we want to go and sample these locations. Then you get some information back and you go, oh, this stream's doing great, we'll continue to monitor it, you know, going forward year after year. Oh, this stream's not doing so well. Why is this stream not doing so well? It should look just like this other stream that's doing well. Then you can start to work your way upstream to find out what the sources of pollution are that are affecting the macroinvertebrates in there, and then hopefully be able to take some sort of action or steps to correct the upstream problems. Does anybody have any questions? Anything you want me to talk more about? Yes, sir. One of the better quality streams in this actually is okay. Most of the streams around here have a water quality designation of warm water. So they're supporting a pretty decent population of macroinvertebrates. There's fish in there, but there aren't any cold water fish in there. A lot of that is because of the forest gone. There's people living all over the place. There's roads. There's all these sources of pollution. It's knocking the macroinvertebrates down. So there's not enough food, and the water temperature tends to be a little too high. In Delaware, in western Delaware County, we have quite a number of high-quality streams, mostly in the Crum Creek watershed. It's a few farther out west. There's one that's in Marple Township. It's Hotland Run, and it has a designation of exceptional value. So I've been to it, I've sampled it, and there's lots of very pollution-sensitive macroinvertebrates in the stream. So I didn't finish mine. So there's warm water fishery, then there is what they term a high quality stream, and then an exceptional value, and I won't get into the fish related things like native trout streams, etc. If you're a fisherman, you probably know all about where those are and why they exist where they do, because they'll have reproducing populations of trout in it. So the water quality is always at a very high level in the stream in order to produce generation after generation of trout. So high quality is when, I think, I don't know exactly what they came up with. It's related to a Hilsenhoff biotic index, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, and an EPT index, which is Ephemeroptera, Plecroptera, and Trichoptera. Those are mayflies, caddisflies, and stoneflies. Those are, as a group, they are the most pollution-sensitive species that are in the streams. So there's a EPT to chironomid ratio that you look at. There's this Hilsenhoff biotic index. I do not know his first name, but Hilsenhoff developed an index of pollution tolerance for macroinvertebrates. There are some that have a 0, which means they will tolerate almost no pollution and have to have just exceptionally good water quality in order to survive. And then you move down the scale to 1, 2, 3, so on and so on. And then I think the Topulidae, which are those shredders who live in these streams, they have an index of around 6 or 8. The chironomids can be 8s and 10s. And so in order to calculate a Hilsenhoff biotic index, you collect a macroinvertebrate sample, you count and identify all the species that are in there, you multiply the number of Plecops that are in there by whatever it is, a 0 or a 1, whatever their assigned index number is, and you work your way down through the whole list, you total that number, and then you divide it back by the total number of organisms, and you get a biotic index. Is this stream a 2.3 or a 6.5 or an 8? And I believe to get to the exceptional value level, you have to be at like a 2 or 3 neighborhood, which means you have an abundance of the pollution intolerant organisms in there, and very few of, well, the pollution tolerant ones will live anywhere. The sensitive ones will only live in really high quality streams. And so Pennsylvania DEP has exceptional value, high quality, and then everything else is just warm water fishery. To get to the exceptional value, you have to have really high ratios of EPT to chironomids, really low Hilsenhoff biotic indexes, and then the difference between the exceptional value and the high quality is you have to achieve 90% of those exceptional value numbers in order to get the designation as a high quality stream. So we proposed one for listing as high quality. We're waiting to hear on it. It's a tributary on the other side of the drainage divide from Hotland Run. Hotland Run is the one that's over in Marple Township that's an exceptional value stream. And when we went and sampled them, there's very little difference between the two. I think we were at about 93% similarity, which you could interpret to say that that's a exceptional value stream, but I'll be happy if we just get high quality for it. To have a high quality stream in eastern Delaware County will just be, something to celebrate. Yes, ma'am.
So I understand that the times to sample are spring and fall, so why is that?
Because if we were to sample in later in the year, in May and June, they're all adults and they're out flying around, mating, and then laying eggs back in the stream. And what we want is the juveniles that are still living in the stream.
And then in the fall.
My favorite time of year to sample is like in March, just before, and actually this year April's fine because it's been so cold for so long that the water temperature really hasn't come up that much, nor has the air temperature. But you want them all to be in their larval form, not in pupa, not in chrysalises ready to hatch out. And you also want them to be as large as possible. So they've spent the whole winter eating and growing and going through instars in there. So you're getting the biggest bugs in the spring. You can go in December and January, you'll get the same group of bugs, they'll just be a little smaller because they're more recently hatched. Depending on the species, some of them have a 2-year life cycle where they'll be in the water for 2 years.
So now we'll kind of run through the sampling methods that we go through to get our samples, and then we'll also we're hoping to get as many people as want to in their sampling, and then we'll also have people just kind of wander around looking for rocks in the good areas just to see what we can find. This stream, well, it seems like it's in a fairly nice area as far as streams go. It does come up as a fairly polluted stream.
What is this headwater?
Right near Villanova University.
Okay.
So it's basically under a parking lot at Villanova.
Okay, I know where that is.
They actually have some pretty good, I don't know if they've published anything yet, but they have some pretty intensive, hopefully that'll come out soon. We'll share it once it does. They have some pretty intensive monitoring going on right at the headwater. So it's always interesting to see. But yeah, so hopefully we can find some diverse critters. I'm not optimistic, but we'll see what happens.
So some of the basics for sampling, we're going to collect. Well, we're just going to collect samples here and sort of go through the exercise. But when we're actually collecting the sample, we pull I just use a 100. You pull a 100-foot tape out and you sample at random intervals along that. This is wide enough that you can split it into 5 separations going across. The ones that we are sampling over in the headwaters of Cobb's are, almost step across streams. So there we do middle, left, and right. And the idea is to collect multiple samples to capture all the different habitat types that go through there, but you do it randomly. So, station at 5 feet, you're going to collect a middle sample. Station 14, you're going to carry a left sample, and you collect 8 of them. And then we have buckets that we randomly dump those in, and then we split them so that so the sample that'll go into the jar will be 1 Suburban sampler, which is 1 square foot. That's why it's some guy with last name is Suburban came up with this sampling net, and it's 1 square foot. So if you have a 1 square foot sample, then you can calculate a density for those bugs on the bottom of the stream versus a kick net where it's not a very repeatable method in terms of the number of square feet that you capture in the net. So that'll give us 1 square foot. When you lay out your transect, you start at your last point and you work your way upstream because you don't want to walk up in here. You're going to disturb the water, you're going to send mud down, you're going to pop a few bugs loose, and you won't get a true sample down there. And now the method that we're using was developed by the guys at the Stroud Water Research Center. Or I'll just say guys in a generic way, because I don't know who was involved with. Yeah, so it covers both genders there. But they have determined through their research that macroinvertebrates occur in streams similar to the way trees occur in a forest. If you walk through a forest, you'll go through an area that's all ash trees. And then you'll go into another area and it'll be mostly oak trees, mostly walnut trees. So that's the same way macroinvertebrates occur in a stream. They're very patchy. So if you just happen to put your server in and grab a sample where you have all the mayflies hanging out, then you have this false sense of really high water quality. So by collecting multiple samples, pouring them into a splitter, and then randomly pulling out a square foot sample, you get a really good indication of water quality along the whole stretch. Instead of, I sampled in this spot and all I got were the chironomids, so water must be lousy here. Well, over there on those other rocks are where all the mayflies were hanging out. So that's the method that they come up with. It makes 100% sense. The way I was taught when I did my undergrad was you picked 3 locations so that you were not sampling everything with just a single location, and you tried to pick 3 pieces of habitat in the stream that looked the same. But theirs is, you're collecting, you might get a sample that's on a sandy bottom, where you're going to get the chironomids in that one. You might get another sample that has these rocks that are covered with algae that, black flies are hanging out on. So it reduces any kind of sampling bias and gives you a really good snapshot of water quality in reach of the stream.
How does the separator work?
They do 16 because they have these big, huge, giant, beautiful streams out there to do in Chester County. We do 8 in the urban environment because that's about as big as the stream we're dealing with. So we'll collect 8 samples. 1 goes in bucket 2, 2 goes in bucket 4, and they randomly go in the buckets. 2 servers go in each bucket. Then you fill the bucket up so that you can rinse the bugs out of it, clean the net, and go back in and get the next one. Then you take the bucket and you pour it into the splitter. The splitter is through use and travel. It doesn't always last. You take this and you put it down in the stream. Water will fill up in the bottom, you take your bucket and you dump it in there. Nobody's leaving because this is the same mesh size that's in the server sampler. You pull it up and you kind of jiggle it a little bit to try and get the detritus and bugs distributed as evenly as possible across the top of the net that's in there. Then you lift it out of the water. There's no water in there. Pop the top off. This had a 4th leg on it. This goes on here, and then you collect, and we vary it across our samples so that we're not always just doing the same thing. And you don't really look around and then try and pick a spot to put it down. You just take it and you set it on there, and then you can grab this pie piece over here. That's a half a server, and then you can, when it had the other leg, you can do this pie piece over here. Now you have 1 server. So it's taking 2 samples, spreading them around in there, and then you're collecting a single server sampler from it.
So it's kind of a randomizer.
Yes, exactly.
All the different habitats sort of equally represented.
Mm-hmm. And then on the big streams that they're collecting 16, they randomly just pick 1 of those because that's just a single server at that point, because you put 4 in a bucket, and now you're just going to take 1 out of there. Yes. Yes.
Why do you have to? You already mix your sample, right?
Yes.
Why can't you just have the whole thing as your?
Because then I'd have 2 server I'd have 2 server volumes in there, and then in order to get down to 1, It's just in some streams the density of bugs is just huge. Two servers, you might have like 6,000 macroinvertebrates in there.
So basically, just help you to reduce the size of the sample and also keep it consistent in terms of the
Of a repeatable volume then that you can multiply back up to say this is how many bugs per square meter, square foot that live in the stream. And in the urban streams around here, we typically don't have thousands of macroinvertebrates in them. Some of the other places that the Stroud folks sample, they get thousands of insects in there. So they'll take the single server piece and then they'll sub-split it. They'll dump it back in here and shake it around and then grab a quarter of a server in those and then take them down to an eighth and a 16th. So you can continue to divide it down and then count through to, typically it's 200 insects, and then you can just multiply that back up to get to a density again.
Oh yeah, that's good. So yeah, I think we'll get going if everyone's these are server nets. Stir up what's within there. Occasionally you'll be on, because you can't, isn't necessarily going to be this exact area to plant down, so if you're partially on a rock, partially off a rock, you just kind of scrape what's within it, try to get up as much as you can. And so there isn't a specific time limit necessarily, but just kind of scrape up what's in there, make sure it's flowing through the net, and then bring it back out. We'll kind of get it into buckets. So let's see. Yeah, I guess we'll take turns. We tend to focus on the riffles where the areas where the water's moving quickest, because that's kind of the best spot for bugs. And we figure since it's a polluted stream, we want to just see what the best possible bugs are. If they're not in those areas, they're not going to be anywhere else.
So would the coach you to bring one of those little scrub things like where you're at a rock and scrub the
Yeah,
rocks
yeah.
like that while you're right?
Yeah, so something, I mean, you can use your hands or you can scrub. We have different implements for
You can use some pretty heavy duty rubber gloves there too.
yeah.
Keep you dry.
And then figure out how we'll do it. We'll have two people sample, and as they come back, start to look through the sample. And start around here, work our way up. If you want to, like Darren was getting started with the downstream anchor, you can walk around up there, then that'll just end up with more sediment stirred up. We can also have, we have extra people, we can have kind of pick around. There's some good riffles down there too. If you want to.
Yeah, 8 is pretty good. 8's a pretty high pH. I'm surprised. Yeah. Leo is decent, 8 is kind of simple. If I was actually rushing water, I'd probably go and then this is Suburban, and the 1,000 Yes. Well, it could be other dissolved metals, but mostly fluoride around here.
It's basically as long as
And then there's the turbidity.
scrape up,
Turbidity is nice
scrub
and
on the
high.
little rocks. Just kind of basically clean off all the rocks that are in there and whatever's on the rocks. We're gonna have them
Yes, definitely.
buckets.
But then
So we're gonna go basically everything until the step. we're hoping. I mean, I'm hoping to get some. Hoping we can use these eliminating ways that they come out. We should be able to beacon all those things up.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah.
What? I think into the.
Just like rinse it down into this part of the net first. So kind of dip it in and rinse all the little critters down to the bottom. Yes, of course. You guys worked hard to scrape those rocks. You're gonna find something in there.
Or the black fly larvae.
Inverse of your net. You just push the whole
Actually,
thing
push
down
the whole
into
thing
the-
down so we wash it out. Yeah, that'll wash it out.
Usually a little bit easier. And then, it's good practice to kind of get it back in the stream and kind of rinse it down again because you might have missed somebody the first time around.
The same area.
Like, don't scrub again, just kind of dump and,
Oh.
like you just
When
did.
you say missed them not collecting, getting
No,
them out of it.
getting them out of the net,
Right,
yeah.
okay. Okay. Oh yeah, we still have some stuff in there. Who knows who might be.
Might just be detritus, but it could be a little guy hanging on. Yeah. They're stubborn. They like to grab onto whatever they can.
No.
Turn it over the other way, and then we get some stuff on the bottom there. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, good. You did real well there. done this on the Wissahickon, I can't say we've gotten any 6,000 bugs in a square foot.
Gotta be careful not to back it up. You want to collect at the bottom. You're kind of losing your sample right now, sorry.
So you really have to try to clean up on that.
Yeah, you don't want to miss anybody. Might be one of your,
Yeah,
might be, one of,
be a good
might
one.
be your stonefly.
Yeah, right.
And in this creek, you find a stonefly.
They were like floating around.
It's kind of like a
Losing-
hole-in-one on the golf course, you know.
Right,
It's,
right. Losing a diamond ring.
10 years of doing this with my 4th grade classes on the Wissahickon, we found no stoneflies and 3 mayflies in 10 years.
Oh my God.
And they were taxed at 2 mayflies that weren't fairly pollution tolerant. They weren't the highly sensitive ones.
Where in Wissahickon?
Harper's Meadow, which is across from Casino College.
I think this is pretty good.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Oh, that's
Someone else can do a turn now.
yeah. You gotta turn it back.
Good rinse.
Well, what's in the bucket?
So you got one
Okay.
server in the bucket
One
now?
server in the bucket.
Okay.
We get 2 in each bucket,
Two
right?
in each bucket, exactly.
Okay, who wants a turn?
to do a turn?
And then so then I give you some
You
gloves.
gotta run something.
Let's just hope some of
Once
it's
you
alive.
take this, I'll give someone else my
Pack it in,
gloves.
toss it in,
Yeah, it really helps to have 2 people.
and then it's got
Do you wanna go together? Or
You can do it with one, but
Oh, you don't
yeah,
have
keep that thing safe.
Somebody maybe for somebody to do
Who wants to be a helper here?
the person said, let's do this.
I'll be a helper.
It's gonna be in the field.
Helper to
It's
help.
not sitting in a bathtub.
Okay.
Great. Okay, we got it.
Oh, me too.
As long as you're upstream from where they work, otherwise, it doesn't really matter.
Were you saying that
Can we just try to pick a spot where we can pretty much put this on the ground?
Yeah, exactly. Like just try to pick somewhere where you're stable. You obviously don't want to put it on a rock out there.
Oh, wait a minute.
the water's moving slowly down. You can stand right here, and you look across. The bed's coming down at an angle, and then you get more turbidity in that. That gives, or not more turbidity, turbulent flow, and that gives oxygen. Right.
That's really helpful. Are you documenting for one of the organizations? Yeah, they want to be able to post them.
I didn't realize I had number.
It's a canopy clippers, really close.
Natural algae that grows there. So you can make more than that. Problem is, I meant to see it. That's really bad. That's a huge nuclear load. And the reason for that is
Cover so many things.
So, yeah. Yeah, that's what we have. That's what we're gonna. Yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna. She said invert it. I just realized you had gloves on, so I'm gonna let you do that part.
Good idea.
I feel like I'm exposed enough at this point.
The sacrifices for science.
Oh no.
Did you get it? You know, I've been doing Creek Watch for a couple years now, and I have yet to get a decent pair. Anybody want
Time to invest
one
in
of these
yourself.
days?
Unfortunately, there's a side of the road, but this thing's on the other side of the road.
I don't see anybody climbing.
The one
I've got enough of an idea of it, probably, you know. You guys were brave. Went out there multiple times.
these on our site, they're kind of some
You have the right footwear.
but they're older still. Yeah. Yeah, the way, I mean, we, around here, it's kind of more big.
Yeah, exactly. This time of year is terrible for that. You have to spend a lot getting taken over with little flower petals and seed pod pieces and stuff like that every time the animals go in and out.
I was so surprised that sometimes, even in the same neighborhood, you see somebody, one patch.
GIS intern. We've been trying to work on some house, but that's a goal of ours to just
Never seen the other
Yeah, I guess, you know, favorable conditions can vary, you know, it's really micro scale sometimes.
Yes. And then I'm sitting oh, that's the next step.
Yeah, so you kind of, just to kind of rinse everything to the bottom, you see now, yeah, he's got it good now. So now it's a little easier to just flip it over, go like this, and try and dump it all in there. What you can do, because sometimes as you're mixing in there, you get the sediment that you already put in there on there, so you can just do like kind of quick scan and see some of these guys. So you'll just want to make sure that these all get in there. Sometimes we'll bring like a squirt bottle with us or something.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
Or
good.
the brush might work too, but you can even use your gloves just to scrape them right down in there. Just try and do like a visual scan and see if there's anything crawling around on there.
If they adhere to the brush, you can wash it.
They might, but then you can again
Then you
rinse
can
the
rinse
brush
the
off in
brush.
there. Yeah, it's you try and get the best you can, but there's some that you might
Yeah,
inevitably
yeah.
miss. But yeah. Not too much. I mean, like you want to be gentle with it. You don't want to purposely be crushing them, but I think a squirt bottle is probably the best way to do it. Yeah. Okay. Like a little squirt bottle. It's squirt off the little excess.
It's hard to tell whether there's anything in there.
Yeah, I think you're pretty good. I think you did a pretty good thorough rinse.
Now this gets rinsed in the stream.
Yeah, and then you can just rinse this in the stream again. I mean, you don't have to do that right now because I'm sure someone will do another sample.
Oh, okay.
Sitting on top there, too. How many samples have we done? So we typically would do.
That's 2.
This 2 in here. Okay. Okay, so then we would combine those and you split it into the 4. So we can probably take this over to the splitter now.
So it doesn't matter the 2 that are in here.
Relatively vigorous. This is from
I do think it's 15 random ones in that 100 meters. So we'll probably just do 4. The idea is that what you're taking back to the lab or wherever to actually do the counting of different species you find should be a total of 1 of these samples. So you randomize it, you homogenize it, mix it all together in the sampler, and then you split it so that it ends up being 1 of these samples. But a mix, it has been randomly sampled throughout.
So when you're done, you have an idea of within that 100 meters.
Exactly, and it's random, so you're not just picking. Maybe you pick this particular plot that has one of the new plots that you're seeing before, or a particular ripple that had a really good, or something that just got washed out. You don't want to have the sample of nothing. There then. So how many? I think there's 2 in this one.
So these each have 2, so we'll split.
But there's other monitors for the penny pack.
Yes. That one has. Is that number 1?
Yeah, we can combine those. Yeah.
Business.
Logistics.
It's convoluted on different partners and kind of keeping it straight. But it's been an interesting, it's been a
So yeah, essentially we.
You know, I said you were
swing, please.
Okay, and we have some little, you see those big thingies?
The spatula. Not a coffee table.
You want the other samples? Okay.
What did you do with the mouse?
These?
Oh, we can,
he's
we can
tending
do
to
those.
in the
I figure we'll do
2?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's eating. And
Is he really?
Yes. That's why she's not here.
We can,
It's hard to believe that people
I'm
are afraid of mice.
Oh, that's the part you've been hiking on.
The first section of this year in about
Okay.
from Kennedy Meadows to Bishop.
Oh, I haven't been there, but
Oh my God. Talk about clean water.
yeah. My goal is one of these summers is to do the JMT down there.
So that's a little piece of it.
Yeah. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
want to see if I can. Now, my younger daughter's now 4 months pregnant, so I guess that's not going to happen for a while. She's the one who did the PCT when she was 19. She said, "Daddy, I'm going to do it." You know, I didn't think much about it because she was one of those people often had not harebrained ideas, but sort of wacky ideas. And then all of a sudden, she started buying equipment.
I think it's great. I think it's great
Yeah.
to have kids spend time exploring. She understands that, but she feels like it was sort of
Alright, so now we can
Okay.
take a lot of movies. So now this is what we'll
I see some black fly larvae.
Yeah, I see them moving.
yeah.
What are they?
Well, there's some black. I did see some black fly.
Yeah, I see it.
Right there, and there's a small one over here someplace. It's a different color, it's not black.
So that's a screen.
There's a
Now, I
caddis
probably
fly.
couldn't
That's a
afford to
caddis
get
fly
this, but
larva
I
right
could just
there.
get like
The big
that,
one
like
is a
some
caddis
sort of
fly?
really fine
The one that
sieve.
comes
Yeah,
right
yeah.
up here.
Right to the thing, I
Yeah,
see it,
Sibs
yeah.
work perfect.
Okay.
Delaware County.
Sure is 86,000.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need to worry about that much. Yeah, they
You wish.
Western Delaware. Yeah, we see a stonefly and we
Oh
go
my God.
crazy.
Yes.
Here's
Yeah.
something right here. That's not a worm, though. Is it? Look right
that
here.
looks
See
like
it moving?
a penny. What is it? A
Water
water
penny?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
sort of
Oh, yeah,
clear.
yeah.
It looks
Yeah, I
like
see it.
a.
I see it. Yeah. Yeah. It looks like a.
It's clear. It looks like a jellyfish.
It also could be a
Except that
little.
it's moving.
That's a,
What do you think happened?
Sixes and sevens.
For a second, I thought it might have been a water penny.
One right over
the
here.
water pennies are more copper colored than more copper colored.
It's like a miniature jellyfish.
The tiny shrimp is a scud.
Test for
But we have like hundreds of people. I don't know where it got. Yeah, I don't.
He found stuff.
I was down with
We should have a. We should have
They came in thinking
a
it was
pointer, very thin pointer to go down. 'Cause I see something moving, but if I just point my finger, it's too thick.
There's something.
Well, they're typically part of White Clay Creek. They really have.
And I think it leads to, I mean, they're obviously experts, but they can sometimes get out to this.
Want to get in there?
Just how degraded.
Can you bring it up further? She doesn't think it's a water penny because she said the water pennies have a copper color.
So most of the ones we see are in the larval state. I'm sure there may be some pupae or adults in there, but the little things we're looking at.
Oh,
We are not going to see mayfly or
okay.
We'll see some caddisflies. I think I saw some. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, sure, yes. Thank you. Okay.
The caddisflies. Yes.
What do we have in here?
I don't know where you went. Oh, there.
Oh, look at that.
So we need some there.
So what's the next step?
So the next step would be, this is when but instead I'm just going to pick through, get a couple examples, put into these little containers, and then we're going to split another one and see if we can find them. We need it for a spot in the table. You just put these in.
Sorry.
apologize, they're dirty. They've been to the creek before. And this big book here has some nice color pictures in the back.
Possibly a baby squirrel, or a baby seal, or a fingernail clam. I mean, what else? I can't see anything else that resembles. No, because somebody said they're collared. That's why I thought it could be a baby.
I think you might have the caddisfly on the inner rim of the plastic too.
I'm giving you a hard
Oh, that's definitely possible.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Right there.
Oh yeah. Ooh yeah. Alright, so we can start to.
See if I can find a few. Maybe I don't do something.
Find that good.
So you adjust the microscope by just lifting them up and down. There's a bit of a twist swing.
And that's a real good. That's a real sound. The area where it was some of the area where it scooped it up. And they tasted it like in the whole thing. Here's something moving right there. Yeah, there it is. That's a little one, a little tiny one. You want to try to get this
Oh,
one?
and there's a big one.
Yeah.
There's a couple. A couple different kinds of caddisflies right there.
Here, you want to scoop this little teeny mini one on?
Yeah.
I think it does. Yeah.
So is that a good sign? Are you happy that there was things in there?
Yeah. It's nice that it's always good to find things.
Do you think yesterday's huge rain will have any effect on
It could.
how we gonna see today?
Yeah, it may. I mean, I'm glad we're at least seeing things. They seem to be mostly. It looks like they're both pretty good.
You just have to move. Oh, is he in there?
I could see, yeah, he's there.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Very cool. Lift your foot.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I haven't seen any trade fish in the creek by my house. But I do remember when I was young, trade fish in the Roosevelt. Wow. Those are cute ones, huh? But they reconnected with it.
It's easier for little kids to find fish.
Maybe that's true. So
They
what
just, I don't know, we get little kids on here, and there's crayfish everywhere. You get adults looking at it.
caddisfly, right?
Yeah.
This is the caddisfly?
Yeah.
Really? Well, there are two of them the same.
Let me see.
One is
These,
a lighter
I think
color.
these are caddisflies, yeah. And then these that are like kind of like moving in an
Yeah,
S
the
shape,
tiny
those are called midge. Like it's a midge.
So the midge, are they like a one species? One species?
I don't
midge,
really know anything
or
about
is
midges other than
it's
what
just
they look
a
like.
common term calling the
I don't know. You'll have to ask.
So we know what this one is?
is that just a common term referring to the type?
Yes, so it's called a chironomid.
Oh, so they are belong to
they're under. We mostly look at these as to the family level. Because it's kind of too nuanced. A lot of times, even it takes a real expert. I mean, I shouldn't say real expert. Like even the experts at Stroud sometimes can't get it down to species. Can't identify down to species. So if we took these with if we had higher resolution microscopes, we could get them to genus, but for in the field, we sort down to family. And that's typically what people know them as, either by the family or by the order. Oh yeah, so the splitting is basically it's just a way to make the sample smaller. So we want to cover as much ground as we can, but it's a way to sort of mathematically reduce the...
Make it more manageable.
Yeah, make it more manageable once we're back.
So, two collection nets have a door. And then when do you do the splitting with that?
So that's once we have all the buckets with 2 samples in them, then you split it.
Oh, okay. So you put all of those in one and then
You just put each bucket of 2 gets split. Yeah, sorry, I know it's it's the type of thing that it takes a bit to get your head around, and then once you have your head around, it's like, oh.
once you do it.
Yeah, once you do it. But yeah, I'm
saying the idea was to get to like a few hundred, like a couple of hundred items to measure, so that it didn't look to me like you're going to have a couple of hundred here, but
yeah, you'd be surprised once we
I mean, once you look,
yeah. But can't say for sure. But yeah, I think it yeah, I'm not sure. I'll stick these down.